Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Average Superstar TV. I'm your host, Lauren Lepre. Please give me that honor and hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. And this week we are back into the independent and the A-list film world here with this guy. So this guy, our guest this week, is a stuntman in movies from A-list to independent and television and all in between. This guy's been in over 100 movies and television shows. This guy has been in the movie Glass, Spider-Man Far From Home. He's been in television shows such as Salem's Lot, Luke Cage, The Almighty Gotham, Blue Bloods, Lovecraft Country. So with that, welcome stuntman Anthony Hoang.
Hey, what's up, Lauren? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, friend. It's definitely been a minute.
I know. We haven't seen each other since 2016.
Yeah, it was I believe it was Death House.
Yep.
So yeah, that was
that long.
I know, dude. Time just flies. But
that was a great time though, fighting each other in an abandoned prison, breathing in all that who knows what dust.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was ridiculous. I was never actually in that prison. It's funny, I lived across from it for about 4 years. I literally lived walking distance from it, and it's like you just can't go knock on a prison. Like, yo, can I come in and look around? Like, that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, they're not gonna let you in. It's not a tour.
yeah. And literally, when I got the call sheet, they never said what it was. They just gave the address. So when I pulled up, I'm like, it's a prison movie in an actual prison. I was like, now I get to finally go in, and I'm like, how many people am I going to know? And it's like, I knew half of you.
Pretty much everybody, yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So yeah, brother, I started around 2010, and I think within a few years, you and I crossed paths. So what is your story? Was this something you've always been drawn to, being a stunt man, or was it just something, an opportunity open? You're like, sure, I'll try that.
It's more of the latter. I never planned to be a stuntman. I actually started off as an actor. That didn't go too well. Well, it went okay. I just couldn't deal with some of like the vain stuff. Like, you always have to self promote and put yourself out there, and it's always about you. Where when stunts, it's more about you. It's the whole thing, yeah. And you're there for support, and the light doesn't always have to be on you. You can just be behind the scenes. Like pulling wires or setting somebody on fire. You don't always have to be the star. So like it got to the point where I was like, I was working background a lot, and I would always be around the stunt people. I never thought of anything about it. Now looking back, I was like, oh man, if only I knew what I know now, and like I talked to them back then, I would have gotten stunts a lot sooner. But the stunt people are always they always seem to be like the coolest people on set. Like
they are,
the most badass people, but they also like can sit back and chill and relax and joke around. So I wanted to be part of that, and I'm trying to make the concise version. So I went from being an actor to a clown with Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, and that's where I kind of found my start becoming a stuntman.
How do you, by the way, just jump over to that world? How do you get involved with that?
It kind of branched over from the acting thing. So I think I was on Backstage.com just looking at the breakdowns and everything, and it was Ringling Brothers. They were doing a clown college audition. They had a shortage of clowns that year. It was 2009. So I went down to Madison Square Garden, auditioned. I got in and got a contract. So I toured with them for it was like a year officially, but then I was their PR clown for the Northeast for a little bit.
That's awesome. So when you were doing that, though, you got to go all across the country and see everything?
Yeah, it was nuts. So we lived on a 1 mile long circus train. That's how we traveled and lived. It was so old school Americana. I couldn't believe it. It was crazy, because like when you're going from city to city, you're sitting in it's called the vestibule. That's kind of like where you can actually sit outside and hang out and see like America go by. So I would do that a lot. But yeah, it was just I was surrounded by like world class athletes and performers, and that's where I kind of picked up some of the stunt skills because like I was doing pratfalls on concrete without pads. Hanging out with the trapeze artists, the acrobats. I worked around with like elephants, lions. I mean, no, not lions, tigers. Um, so I kind of got exposed to all the elements of becoming a stuntman through that.
How do you break? Like how do you? It's your first time you're going near a freaking tiger. What? That's got to be just be the biggest heart racing, right? I mean, it has to be, right?
Yeah, you got to approach them slow. They usually have like their handlers with them. They usually warn you. Like tigers, they have this amazing talent. They can pee like 10 to 12 feet. And for
Wow.
some reason, yeah, I swear they were aiming for certain people. And when certain people walk by them, they would turn around, lift up their tail, and you're like, oh no. And then you'd grab the curtain and just kind of hide or something so you can get sprayed.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember like just being at the zoo and a tiger would just make eye contact with me. Not like he's challenging me, but just he recognizes I'm there. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be something that to see those eyes lock on you, like.
Oh, it's crazy. And then when you get up close, you see their paws are so huge.
Yeah.
One swipe, you're like, oh, that could take me out.
Yes, it could. So you got to do that for, you were saying, about a year, huh?
I toured with them for a year-ish, a little more because I did some work with them before I officially signed my contract because I was doing like PR stuff. But yeah, I like to say usually like about 2 years is when I did that. It was around like, let's see, where were we? We were in California. We were doing because we do a stretch on the East Coast like toward the beginning of the year. Then toward the end, we're kind of like on the West Coast. So we did like, I forgot the stops exactly, but we were in Oakland. We played at the Staples Center in LA. So we were just out in California for like 5 weeks. That's where I met another former clown, Jimmy Graham. I was talking to him and I was like, dude, I don't think I'm going to resign my contract. Like, what do I do? And he's like, well, you got two options here. You can either become a birthday party clown or a stunt man. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, look back on it. Like, you're trained as a stunt guy. Like, you do acrobatics, you're around motorcycles. I was a clown car driver, so I was pretty good with vehicles. It just kind of clicked and made sense. But I didn't get into stunts right away. So like I figured it out. I wanted to get in stunts, but then like figuring out how to actually do that was the tough part.
Yeah. So where do you actually go? Because I mean, I know I've done stuff with you, the Fight Valley and Death House, but I've always been just vocal. Like I'm an ex wrestler, manager, and a martial artist. So it's like, yeah, I could go with the flow and fall, but like, you want to say I'm actually falling completely right? No, like I could kind of be thrown in there and be guided. So technically, I've never been truly trained in stunts. So where do you? I know there's stunt schools, but where?
I mean, you have a pretty good idea how to pull off a lot of stunts. It's similar. It's just figuring out how the standard operating procedures of how stunts actually work. Because there's a lot of daredevils coming to this. They're like they can just huck themselves around, but then there's a way to do it so it's repeatable, so you can do it 20, 30 times in case production wants you to do that. So there's actually a few stunt schools around, and I went to one of them, the International Stunt School in Seattle, and I saw that, and I saw the ticket price to get in, and it was like, I think it was like $5,000 for tuition.
Wow,
close to $5,000, and then you're on your own for travel, lodging, food. So in the end, it came to maybe like $8,000 around there.
Because you had to put yourself up somewhere, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
And how long was the training? Like how long's the course?
It's a 3 to 4 week intensive. So you can do the basic 3-week course that they cover fighting, aerial awareness stuff like mini tramp, high falls. You do fire burns. You do a little bit of driving, some wire work, rappelling. So they kind of cover a little bit of everything, so you have an idea of what you're doing in stunts. And then the last week, if you sign up for that, it's a 1-week intensive of just wire work.
Got you. So I know I've seen some of your videos where you're playing with fire. So I mean, how is that when you're actually going to light you or something like for the very first time? I mean, fire is always going to be unpredictable.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. You can't. Yeah, it's got a mind of its own. You can't control it. You kind of just have to like understand it and respect it. So I think what helps with fire stuff is like I wasn't really scared going into doing the fire stuff because I was already doing fire stuff in the circus. So I knew a lot about fuels and how I can not control the fire, but kind of like manipulate it safely. But yeah, being on fire, some people, this is how I know they're lying. I've heard people tell me that, oh yeah, I've been lit on fire. It's the greatest thing because it keeps me so warm and hot during the winter. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? When you're on fire, you're cold because you're covered in goop. You're covered in gel. It
Yeah.
puts all the heat out of you. You're freezing. So I'm like, what are you talking about?
But I like that though. I like that, you could call that out,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people always want to give themselves more credit in this business more than, than they actually earned,
Yeah, sometimes people try to fake it till you make it, but with stunts you can't. Like somebody is like, I'm a Golden Gloves boxing champ. Like the first couple punches, you can automatically tell like if you've thrown a punch or not in your life.
and just any martial art, even on the street, when they say that, I'm like, show me something. They get in a stance, you're just like that is no stance at all in any martial arts. Like that
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest differences I noticed between the acting world and stunts. Because I remember when I was coming up as an actor, I would go to like some coaches and they'd be like, yeah, if you've done like a weekend intensive with archery, you can put that on your resume. I'm like, well, no. With stunts, it's like if you put archery on your resume, that means you can hit a bullseye from any angle, how far. It doesn't matter while on fire, while holding a jelly donut. It does. They're gonna throw these variables. If you can do it, you can you're able to do it no matter what. And that was the scary thing about the acting world, where there's just like, go ahead, take a Groupon martial arts class. You've done it for a week, or you got your white belt with a free uniform. Go ahead, say you're a martial artist now. I'm like, no.
You know what? It's like one of those things. Anyone who knows I'm out of Philly area, I have a bad habit of calling out that. I don't want to say a bad habit, but I'm the guy that calls a lot of stuff out. Like so many people like there'd be actors forever, and then after like 8 years, I was like, well, I could do stunts too, and I'm like, could you tell me what? They're like, well, I could go flying over that tail. I'm like, do you know how to land?
Right?
Do you actually know like the way your body is actually supposed to flop? I mean, like, what do you do with your mouth? I mean, you don't know like the rolling the tongue back, keep your mouth in your shut. Like they just don't know that stuff.
Yeah,
and
tucking your chin in and not hitting your head.
yeah, and then they don't understand that the framing, a real fight's different than the Hollywood camera. Like the fist has to come way like. It's out. It's crazy, but people give themselves credits for stuff like that.
I think it's what it is because it looks fun and like on the surface level, it's like, yeah, it's something I could do, and then maybe I could try it. But that's super offensive to say to some person because it's like I'm doing this as a career. It's not a hobby. You can't just try it and see if you like it.
Yeah, and then there's certain like I know pay scales vary, but like I know like if you were to be thrown off of the 6-story building or something, that's a different pay compared to martial arts, compared to being fully lit on fire. Like there's certain brackets.
Right. Yeah. So those are the stunt adjustments. So depending on how big or dangerous the stunt is, or how many times you do it, the more money you get.
Yeah. And what I've seen also people try to pull like they're falling out of a 3-story building, and it's just like the crash mat is like a box spring, and I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I don't care how you freaking land. I'm like, who told you that? Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be here when you shoot that.
That's the old school way. Some of the Chinese stunt guys were still doing that. I mean, they're very bare bones minimum,
Oh my gosh, yeah. Sometimes there's that cringing, and then you also know, like, you've done a million times more than me, but like when you're doing a fight scene with someone, how much you drill that over and over. It's like it's really a dance by the end.
Right. Yeah, it's more of a dance than a fight. Because everything's choreographed, accurately precise.
Yeah, and then what happens after you get done? You gotta show the DP who's gonna let you know what he could see and not see. Then you adjust that again. Like they can't shoot it. The audience doesn't see it.
Yeah, you're constantly adjusting. Sometimes, like we go into a fight, there, we'll get a script, we'll look at it, and it's like, go ahead, design a fight. And then we'll get to the actual location, and then there'll be things in the way, like like we made a fight that has to take place in a living room. Then all of a sudden, a lampshade will be in the way. A coffee table is a lot bigger than we thought, and there's like extra couches and stuff. And then you gotta adjust to that.
Yeah. So, what would you say the brackets are as far, because I think the audience would totally love to hear this, but like, what's an average pay between like, hey, you're in a bar fight and you get thrown over the table versus a martial art fight versus the fire versus being thrown off of something extremely high?
Yeah, I mean it's subjective. There's really no set pay scale or for adjustments. like a basic, like if somebody came out of a cafe and then they got pushed over and they fell to the ground, like certain coordinators will pay you $100 every time you hit the ground doing that. Other coordinators might pay you $300 every time. So it depends on the show and the context of it. Um, there's a lot of variables. Like maybe you get shoved and you fall, but you're wearing like a trench coat with spikes on your shoulders. That makes it a lot more dangerous. So
Yeah.
maybe you might get more pay for that just for dealing with extra BS. It's hard to say. Because I've done fights where I've gotten like $100 extra for the day, and I've done fights where I've gotten a couple $1,000s extra.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to range. Like same thing with fire. Some pay lower, some pay higher for the same exact gag.
I just find that weird. Like, I understand you should be safe, but like, it's freaking fire. It just is, like, like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a definite danger with fire crashes. Any of the bigger high profile stunts, like falling out of buildings and stuff like that, you're putting extra risk on there.
And then there's obviously people that specialize with motorcycles, people that specialize with car wrecks, because that's the key to Hollywood is practically an action film is car wrecks, right?
Right. Yeah. So you got specialists who do nothing but fighting. You got specialists who do nothing but cars. And when I say with car, that kind of splits into two too, because you got guys who just slide cars and drive them like super precise, and you got guys who just do nothing but car crashes.
This really quick, because I've never been around this. I don't know if you have or not, but how do you practice crashing a car like this? Like, where does the practice come in? Because obviously there's a dollar attachment.
All right. Yeah. I mean, can't really practice it. I just actually took a car crash seminar out in LA a month ago, and as much as it seems like you kind of just put a helmet on, strap yourself in, and then just kind of stay in the roll cage. There's a lot more to it, and there's a science to it. Like, so we went there. We were stressing a lot on self extraction. So the first day we just worked on just getting yourself out of the car with the car on all four wheels, on the side, on the other side, upside down. So I mean, there are ways to practice like the car crashes, like elements of it, maybe not the full crash. So you can prep yourself as much as possible. So when by the time you actually do it, you kind of have an understanding of what's going to happen, what you're going to do once the car settles.
Gotcha. I mean,
I know it's like, it's not like fights where it's like, hey, let's grab a couple of buddies and we'll practice fights. With car crashes, I guess my best answer is you either just gotta do the prep work around before and after it, or just get a car and actually just kind of do it for real.
Gotcha. And then, like, I know, James Liu, doesn't he have a school up in New York? Isn't he one of the
No. So when he was around town, he ran some fight classes,
Okay.
workshops, but he didn't have a school.
Okay, but is that like, is it basically staying active in the stunt world? Is it kind of basically just like being an actor, like you guys got to get in with the right people and it just chain reacts, or there's like the Screen Actors Guild or whatever, just kind of just know where to go to get their stunt people?
Yeah. So so when a lot of people go, oh, Screen Actors Guild, it's a union. It's technically not a union because unions actually help you find the work. Being part of a SAG, well, you're kind of on your own. So it's kind of like the actor side, or actually any position in the film and TV world. It's just who being at the right place, right time, being prepared. I mean, half of it's luck, half of it's just knowing people.
Gotcha. So it's like, yeah, we're all independent contractors in a way.
Yeah, right. As soon as they yell you're wrapped, you're unemployed. So it's like,
Yeah.
on to the next job, or like I gotta find the next job.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like, it just seems to happen. It's just part of, you don't want to say it's part of the game, but like once in a while there's an accident and someone passes away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, is it just basically, as the stunt world, is it kind of like, as much as you're mourning that, is it just something like you know the risk, this is what you're doing and it could happen, or is there like every time that happens that you're trying to readjust things to make it more safe?
I mean, when stuff like that happens, it's definitely it's a learning lesson. It really sucks, and it does affect the stunt world because it's such a small community. We all know each other. Like, when something happens, like in Atlanta, people on the West Coast will hear about it within 5 minutes. Same thing, on that side, or just anywhere in the world. The word spreads like wildfire. First thing. Well, a lot of stunt stuff. Like, let me rewind a little bit. A lot of the technology in the stunt world, or just just anything, for example, like seatbelts. Somebody had to die for us to figure that out and be like, all right, what are the next safety precautions? Like, how do we do better? So we try to learn from stuff, accidents and stuff like that, prevent it in the future. But yeah, it sucks. Stunts. It's what we try to do is minimize the risks, but that's why it's stunts. There's an inherent risk to what we're doing, and yeah, you just do your best to try to minimize it, and get the job done. And the goal is just to get everybody home and safe to their families.
Without a doubt. And that's why I just think like the award shows should be a category for stunts. I just totally think that. I mean, there's a big difference when like Russell Crowe brings someone to the edge of a cliff and says his cool line, and then throws the other, the rival lead actor off the cliff or something. And you're like, that ain't him. That's
Right.
that's a stunt person. Like they're making this look, making
Yeah,
it's the money shot. You're like, what's going on here? Why are they being overshadowed? Because what, you don't know their face for real.
yeah, it's tough to. I don't know. I understand both sides of the coin on this one. Um, when you look at what was it, a few years ago when Mad Max came out, that won Oscars for like, I don't know, 6 different categories. But if you look at the movie, it's a stunt heavy movie, and there wasn't a category for stunts. And it's like every other department gets to participate in the award show. For some reason, stunts is just kind of left out. So that, in that principle, I think it's wrong because it sucks. It's just like, why, like every other department gets recognition, but stunts is like,
I just find that weird because it's like, hey, best screenplay, best special effects. Well, yeah, special effects matter, but like the special effects might require a man on fire, and
right, exactly.
you know what I mean, like running through a wall. Who knows? What is it, a comic book movie? So it's like, come on, and look at what's really been the acre of Hollywood the last 20 years has been comic book movies.
Right.
Well, who's riding that ship? And making them look good.
Exactly. Yeah. Without the stunt people, like what superheroes were fighting nobody.
Yeah, Superman and Batman in the Marvel universe, they're not fighting anybody.
They wouldn't be fighting. They wouldn't be flying, doing any of the cool stuff.
Yeah. I just think this is something they should really, geez, Hollywood, come on here, get
Right.
these people their credits,
Well, when they're like exclusively making it a thing, it's kind of annoying. On the flip side, though, I kind of get it. It's like stunt people are kind of like people of the shadows. Like we were known to show up, do the job, shut up, kind of disappear. But like,
I guess also, how do you nominate when there's so many? I get, I mean, how would you nominate like this car flip versus,
right? And that's another thing. How do they give awards for that? Does it go to the stunt coordinator who designed the actual stunt, or does it go to the stunt performer who actually did it? So that gets a little tough. That's a little above my pay grade. I haven't been able to figure all that out. It's all right. Right for now, we got the Taurus Stunt Awards. that's way cooler. It's like the Oscars, but nothing, no other category, just stunts. That's it.
Where does someone watch that?
It used to be on TV, actually, on like Spike and TNT and stuff like that. They haven't televised it in years, but they would have presenters like Vin Diesel, The Rock. Way cooler awards show.
I dig it.
Actually bring it back this year. I'm excited. I'm going to try to go to it, but it's sponsored by Red Bull, so Red Bull's flowing all night long. It's a good time.
So you're always a guy. Like anytime I tell you, I see you pop up everywhere. But I just figured I'd jump in some of your worlds here. So I remember seeing you at the climax fight scene in Glass.
Oh yeah.
Well, how was that experience? Plus, like, I know you're more of a tri-state guy, so it wasn't too far from home. But like, I saw you. I remember seeing Muhammad. I believe I saw him in there too.
Like every guy in Philly was working on that.
Yeah, like everybody. Yeah, but I mean, I thought that was a fantastic film. I love that trilogy so much. So
yeah, that was a great movie. I didn't, when I got the call from the stunt coordinator for that, I didn't know what I was going in for, because he actually made me audition for a few roles in that. And then somehow I landed that the security guard thing in the car. But yeah, that was a really cool time. I like the way M. Night works. He's very he's clear with his decisions and he sticks with them, and he knows how to communicate that to the rest of the crew. So that's really cool to watch. And then the stunt coordinator on that was Manny Severio, who's done pretty much like all M. Night's movies. But if you look him up, he's got like 500 something credits, maybe even 600 now. Yeah, and he's worked with everybody like Metallica. You name it.
He better go for 1,000 and retire on his 1,000 just to put that stamp down.
He deserves it by then. But yeah, that was a really cool experience just to be in that asylum. I forgot we were in Allentown for that.
If I remember your scene right, like doesn't like he jump on your shield and they were shooting through the shield like to see his reaction? If I remember right.
No, I was in the car and I got flipped over.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that might have been Muhammad or someone else's. Yeah, but I just like how he came up with the shot, like the shield over the camera and stuff. So
yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I just think that was great, and like you were also in Gotham a lot.
at least once a season. And I die at least once a season.
Yeah, what was that experience like? It's crazy too, because like there was a lot of people I know that like mostly extras in movies, but like everybody was in Gotham. Everybody was in Gotham but me.
Oh man, I gotta bring it back then just for you.
Yeah. But
that was a really cool experience. I love working on that show. Just because I don't know if this is the right term for it, but there's something classic, like a classic look to Gotham. Like when we got there, like just even hair, like I would wear product in my hair, but they would comb it over and be like, oh, we gotta look like 1920s ish, kind of like Prohibition era. Just like if you look at the show, like all the colors are very like gloomy. They do a good job. Like just the sets are amazing when you're there looking at stuff. You're just like, holy crap, I'm in Gotham, like Gotham City. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. They got. I dug the show because it was like tribute to the past, but bringing it forward at the same time.
Right. Yeah, they did a good job of balancing the timeline.
Yeah. That was, it's like, yep, you just got killed by the penguin, hey? You caught him at the wrong time.
People come up to him at conventions and go, "You killed my friend." He's like, "What? I've killed a lot of people. Can you be more specific?" Thankfully, he remembers stabbing me in the neck with the glass vase.
Yeah, I think that was after his mom's character passed. I think that's why he was mad. Yeah. But so what happens? Like you just get, is it like the people of Gotham just say, hey, send me him again? Or is it just like, hey, as long as it's not the same season, you could bring him back. We'll make him look different. Like, how does that work?
I'm not exactly sure. I think the stunt coordinator just liked me. And so he's bringing me back. I know some shows are very hard on that where they're like, oh, we've seen you once, you're not coming back.
Yeah, one and done. I totally get it. Yeah.
Or you're never coming back. Like I've heard some friends, they've been seen in some Marvel shows, and then they're not allowed to work on other stuff. I'm not exactly sure if that's like a thing, but I think if you're watching that closely, you're not watching the right stuff. Like, I mean, because like stunt people, we're just kind of background characters. Like, we appear on screen for like a second, get shot, killed, or just knocked out. It's like we can come back.
Well, I guess that's the Marvel universe versus the DC universe. DC will reuse you.
Well, it also doesn't help that there's like Marvel and like Marvel wiki pages and stuff like that, where they document, like they're like, oh, Anthony's been in Iron Fist season 1. You can see him doing this. Oh, he was also in Daredevil. I'm like, yo, stop, shut up.
Yeah. Well, fans are fans. They always seem to know.
I appreciate it. That takes some dedication to sift through all that and make a file.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lovecraft Country, how was that?
Oh, that was a good time. So we shot that in Atlanta. I was down there for a week, shooting the Korean War fight scene. Yeah, that was a good time. I think I only worked like 2 days on that, realistically. But yeah, that was crazy. We had so many stunt people on the roster. I think like 40 or 50 people on that night, like the main night we were there.
Yeah. So I know in the last 10 years, Atlanta definitely exploded more, especially when it comes to TV and all that. So like, would you say like it's almost in the recent years equal for work compared to New York, or better, or has that exceeded it?
That's a tough question. I know Atlanta definitely has, like New York has, like, I think I was talking to another stunt coordinator the other day. We have about 85 productions going on right now. In Atlanta, I'm not sure about TV, but they definitely have a lot more film. Um, yeah, I know something about that market. It just exploded, and then now Marvel loves shooting all their stuff down there. So we had like all the Marvel TV shows up here in New York the past 5 or 6 years. Like, so we had Daredevil, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. Um, I don't know if they come back. I don't know if they'll come back to New York. They might stay in Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're also going to go with the tax incentive, and what kind of weather are they looking for too? Depending the
Right.
show. You know.
Yeah, it's crazy how they can fake New York and Atlanta. A little scary.
It's amazing how everything can do. I'm a film director, and I'm always looking at like, how am I going to make this look, like that? But on that large of a scale, wow. It's always going to be a wow. That's the coolest part about Hollywood.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Magic.
and like you make fan. So, have you worked out of the country yet?
No, I haven't worked out of the country. I wish.
Yeah, yeah.
I would love to hop on one of those like ridiculous like Bollywood Indian movies.
Well, they're rolling over there pretty good, aren't they?
Oh yeah,
Bollywood?
they always got something going on. And I don't know if you watch any of them, but they're like out of this world wacky. Like they'll have a car jump and like spin 3 times in midair while a guy's shooting a gun. Like out of this world stuff. I love it.
Hells yeah, hells yeah. How about the TV Salem's Lot?
Oh yeah, so I think that's going to be a film. So
Okay.
that have you seen the original Salem's Lot?
Yeah, I saw both of them. There was the Salem's Lot and there was Return to Salem's Lot.
Oh, I
So
didn't know there was a second one. Oh, cool.
yes, there is. Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if this is a remake or not, but it's definitely based around like vampires and stuff. On that one, I wasn't actually on screen. I was support on that, lighting people on fire.
So you can be brought in this for that. That's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, is there like an equal balance for you? Like, yeah, I don't feel like flying through the air all that cool. I'm the coordinator, but then there's probably the times you just love to get in there, right?
I just love working. I mean, if I could perform all the time, great. If I can be support and just help out, with rigging and just be on pull team, I'm cool with that. If I can help prep, I just like being around all of it. The more you do, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more you can do. And that eventually I want to segue more into stunt coordinating and just I gotta think ahead here. I can't fall down forever.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah,
always said that the physical, anything you're doing physical. There's a reason why all the four major sports, like eventually you're going to get phased out. So I always
right.
tell people it's not about how much money you make; it's about how much you save.
Yeah.
For the
Uh,
future, more
Because
than ever now. So
oh, for sure. I'm
what?
trying to plan ahead, and I want to go down the coordinating route, later on. But to be there, I want to be able to say I've done at least all the major gags at least once. I want to be able to say I've done a car hit before. I've crashed a car. I've been on fire falling out of a building. So when I hire a guy doing that, I can be like, look, this is what I did when I was in your position. So I don't want to be in that position to be like, hey, I want to make you do this. It's something that I have no idea because I've never experienced it myself.
Without a doubt. And so, I mean, how do you? Is it? I guess I'm just going to guess your community is so tight, but like if there's ever somebody's trying to pull, oh, I could train you and I'm going to start my own school, and you kind of know they've only been around a couple of movies. I mean, does everybody kind of gang up, be like, yo, you're going to get someone hurt. You're not even fully trained yourself, or
Oh yeah, yeah. Word spreads fast. That usually shuts down relatively quickly. I mean, it's just kind of a rule of thumb, and like sometimes you see guys who open up training courses and they haven't been in the business for more than like a couple of years, and like they're still trying to figure it out themselves. And it's like you shouldn't be really trying to teach people how to do stuff because you don't quite understand everything. I've seen a lot of people teach and they mean well, they just don't know what they don't know. It's like you teach somebody fighting, but there's like a lot of intricacies that you don't really understand until like you've been on set to be like, hey, this is the rhythm, the timing, this is the intent behind it. Like, there's more to it than just the physical stuff too.
You're right. And I've always said that. I've seen actors that have been around for 6 months try to break off and start their own acting school. I'm like, what are you doing? I've seen it happened a lot so I have a professional wrestling background, but like there's people that like they went to wrestling school, got halfway through it, 3/4 through it, and then something would happen and the teacher would throw them out, and they'd be like, "Well, screw this, I'll go start my own." Well, it's like, well, you didn't cross the finish line.
Right. You don't know what you don't know yet. There's
like maybe up front you could be the guy that gets you to a certain point, but like, and it's weird because I don't know in the stunt world, is there a certification you get from a state or something to say like, yes, we could recommend you, but in wrestling there's nothing.
Yeah, well, it's the same.
It's all you have a tax ID that you could you can do whatever you want. It's crazy.
Yeah. I wish we had something that kind of governed like a certification or a registration system. Yeah, we don't really have anything like that.
Yeah, and I've even seen, especially, in the last 10, 15 years in MMA, like I've seen people, get their blue belt and then like maybe one more belt, and then they have a falling out with the teacher, and then the teacher throws them out, and it's like they're teaching. It's like, yo,
that's crazy.
You're 2 belts in, and like I just said with the wrestler, like, yeah, they could get you to a point, but you're like,
yeah, you're a disservice because I've seen. I don't know if you've seen any of the BJJ videos where they were doing like dojo storms, and they went to one guy's school where he was teaching like single legs, but he was teaching it all wrong, and they called him out at the end of class. And they were like, "Where'd you get your black belt from?" He couldn't answer it, and then he was like, "Get out of my school!" It's like you're teaching people the wrong technique. Like you're not helping anybody.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird because like again, someone who does that opens their own MMA school and they're not fully trained.
Yeah,
they got a tax ID. They're paying rent somewhere. Like there's no one there to regulate, and I just wish there was. I just do. I just would. It's because that the ultimate price with that. Someone's gonna get hurt the wrong way. Well,
I'm sure like usually once people hit that certain level, they're like, there's not any more I can learn. They kind of see through all that and they leave. I see it happen all the time.
Yeah, you hope so anyway, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, so like if you were to recommend someone, if someone's going to ask you, hey, I'm interested in doing this, where do you recommend, like where to go to get started?
Ooh, there's a long answer and a short answer. Let me figure out. So the bread and butter stunts.
Well, I guess it depends where you live, right? So
kind of, yeah. So on the general like umbrella version of it, like the longer version is the bread and butter stunts is fighting and falling. So I would recommend somebody learning a martial art, literally any martial art, just to get body movement mechanics in. But the top two, if I were to recommend between like the ones that are out there, I'd say get a good boxing background or taekwondo, get the flashy kicks. Learn BJJ, because right now that's a hot flavor right now because of all the John Wick movies, the Marvel movies. There's a lot of judo and BJJ in those movies. So learning martial art doesn't matter what really, but if I were to pick, it would be the ones I just named. Go to a gymnastics class, learn how to fall, be aerial aware, get some trampoline time, learn how to tumble. That teaches you how to fall because you're going to fail. You're going to fail and fall all the time. So that's a good starting point. Like if you're in the middle of like Indiana, middle of nowhere, like, there's not a community or like anything film related out there, that's a good jumping point. Cause I've had friends move from like Montana, Wisconsin, Wyoming. I'm like, what's out there for like film and stunts? Like nothing. They're like, I just trained a lot and or I rode my dirt bike and I know how to jump it and stuff. And that's how they got in stunts.
But you would recommend anyone who's kind of in the middle of nowhere, like they probably should at least, go somewhere for whatever the 6-week course or something to be properly trained, right? Is that what you're kind of saying? Besides,
no, I'm saying even before then, if you can just sign up with a martial art and just take that for like a year or two. Honestly, it takes about 5 years, 5 solid years to become, a solid stunt performer. Usually people don't. It's changed now. Before you would train for like years and you probably get your first job like 2 or 3 years in. Then you start actually getting work about year 5. But now with so much media coming out, I'm seeing a lot of people get in the business within the first year and they're just working like crazy. But things are changing because now there's places to train like we were talking about. Like so there are courses out there. There's a lot of the film hubs like Atlanta, LA, New York, Seattle is the one I went to. So they had a course up there. But you can find a lot of these stunt workshops, clinics, schools that run for like anywhere from 1 week to 6 weeks. So if you got the money, go for it. Definitely any education's good. because sometimes even if it's not good, you learn what not to do and recognize the red flags and be like, all right, that's not how you tie a knot to fly somebody, or that's not what you, I learned that this certain mat is good for this X amount of falls for this height, and then you just experiment and go to different schools. As long as they're not hurting people, definitely check them out. But yeah, if you're in any of the hubs, you can. I mean, Google's your best friend now. You'll be able to find something. Like in New York, there's a couple training courses. UATW is like the biggest one. Chaz Menendez runs that.
Okay.
That's a lot of film fighting and falls. Sometimes they do extra stuff like wire work and high falls. They don't. So technically, a high fall is anything over 30 feet. So if you fall from somewhere like 10 to 15 feet, even though it's high, it's technically not a high fall. Yeah, it's a low fall. So they train you in that stuff. There's a couple other groups. That's Project Performance. They teach stuff. There's a couple other groups. There's some other groups that kind of just like they run by invite only. So you kind of just have to find people in that group and get an invite in.
Awesome. Yeah, hell yeah, brother. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Average Superstar TV, friend. I've been waiting to get some of my stunts on, and it's been a minute since I talked to you, so I'm glad I hit you up, brother. Thank you.
Yeah,
so much.
thank you for having me on. This was fun.
Absolutely. So feel free to plug away for anyone who's looking to use you or any events coming up. But I mean, feel free to.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have nothing coming up personally, but if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Action Anthony. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on there. I'll try to answer as best as I can. I know I'm pretty horrible when it comes to Facebook Messenger, so try not to hit me up on there because my inbox is usually blown and I get overwhelmed and I don't look.
Awesome. And all right, brother. Well, I thank this audience for tuning in for another episode of Average Superstar TV. Please give me that honor and subscribe to YouTube, us on YouTube, also Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. New episodes every Monday morning at 5:30. And with that, Anthony, I will say goodbye. And with that, I will say the party's over.